Hello and welcome to Daily Politics, reaching you from Trust TV here in Abuja. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Suleiman. We're dedicating tonight's episode to Hanifa Abubakar, and we will be discussing the rising cases of kidnapping, killing, and even cannibalism of minors. If you have been following the news, and we believe you have, then you are familiar with the sad story of Hanifa Abubakar, a 5-year-old preschooler in Kano who was kidnapped and gruesomely murdered by her own teacher, one Abdul Malik Muhammad Tanko. Tanko confessed his crimes after he was arrested by the police while trying to receive ransom, which he demanded from her parents, even after he has killed Hanifa and buried her in a shallow grave. Kano has an infamous history of missing children, but the chilling story of Hanifa's kidnap and eventual murder is on a different level entirely. It has shocked many citizens and people continue to voice their anger. It is trending on social media where netizens show their outrage and, of course, demand justice for Hanifa under many hashtags such as Justice for Anita, trending on Twitter. When I checked just a few minutes before coming here, that hashtag has had more than 20,000 tweets. Yet, as sad as it is, that is where our society is at the moment. Only last week in Zamfara State, police paraded a 57-year-old man for cannibalism. He said that the oldest of his suppliers is a 20-year-old person, and the youngest was a 14-year-old. Also in Kano last week, police paraded one Awal Abdul Rashid for the kidnap and murder of a 13-year-old hawker. Last year in Kaduna, another similar case to the Hanifa situation happened when a man kidnapped his neighbor's son and murdered him after collecting 1 million naira in ransom. So tonight we're asking, where are we in Nigeria? Where are children safe if they cannot be safe in their homes and in schools? What are we doing as a society? Will the families ever get justice? Will Hanifa ever get justice? My guests on the program tonight are people very familiar with issues like this from many different professional perspectives. I have with me Dame Julie Oka Donley, a former Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP. Also with me is Hajab Bilkisu Muhammad, a psychotherapist, a mental health therapist, and also a wellness coach who is the founder of Placid Place. And from Kano via Skype is Dr. Fatima Damagun. Dr. Fatima is a physician and a columnist for Daily Trust. Thank you all, ladies.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's but before we jump, I'm so eager to jump into the discussion. But before we do that, we'll take a minute and honor Hanifa. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. And now let's get to the discussions proper. Dame, as a former DG of NAPTIP, you had to deal with cases of this almost on a daily basis. But right now, some people are saying this goes beyond just crime or trafficking in persons, that this is an issue that shows the complete moral breakdown in society. Because the people involved in this kind of crimes are people who are your neighbors, who are your teachers, and so on. What's really going on here?
Well, it's really sad. I mean, people no longer have value for human life. A lot of work has to be done by parents. Some parents leave parenting to the schools, to the teachers and all of that. But parents have a lot of work to do in bringing up their children. The youths, most of the youths, they need to change their mindset. You know, some of them just think that, you know, you have to do what you have to do to make money. Nobody is ready to work any longer. Of course, we have very hard-working youths, you know, but now, some of them are just, I don't know where it's coming from. I just want to make money overnight. So whatever it takes to make this money, they are ready to do. Yeah, I see a lot of organ harvesting going on now, which a lot of people mistake for ritual harvesting, ritual killings or murder. For me, there's nothing like ritual murder.
So what do people do with the organs? That's an important dimension.
They buy and sell the organs in the black market. So what we should actually be doing is not just to parade these people. We need to find out who is buying the organs and where are the organs being taken to.
That's the end.
Absolutely. Who is buying these organs? Where are the organs being taken to? Parading them would not do justice, because we are missing out on some serious investigation because we are stopping at them. We need to know who are you getting these organs from and who comes to buy them from you. There's a market. It's simply buying and selling of organs, and we have to take this very seriously.
Thank you. So, thank you, Hazel Kisu. What are the root causes of these issues, given that most of them happen to be in specific parts of the country? Of course, these kind of things are widespread, but the statistics in recent years, at least, you know, indicates Kano, Kaduna axis. Although, of course, just last week we're dealing with another case in Jos as well. So why are we having this kind of things? Where is it coming from?
The insecurity has brought a lot of problem.
Okay.
And with this kidnappings, people believe they can make easy money sitting down at home. They don't think about the repercussions. They don't have the end in mind. They just think about getting the money without working for it, as she said. So they just go ahead, plan a kidnap without even knowing how it is going to happen. And in the end, most of them will get scared and kill the victim.
Kill their victims.
Yes, exactly. So ignorance is one of our main problems. And this instant gratification of making money without working for it. The world has changed. We need to evolve and change with it. We need to know our values. We don't stand for anything. We don't know our values. We say we are religious people.
As a society, the whole country.
The whole country.
Whether Muslims or Christians.
Yes, and are we practicing the religion the right way? We are not. So we need to go back to the drawing board. The family, especially, as she said, parents need to stand up and look into their kind of upbringing. In fact, look into ourselves as parents. Who are we? What do we stand for? What are our values? What do we want to teach our children? Most of the time, we want our children to be good, but are you showing the right example as a parent? What example are you showing your children? What value are you imbibing in them?
Thank you. So, then, one of the issues in here is people say that we just parade suspects, but we never hear about suspects getting, or victims getting justice, or their families getting justice. You know, after a few days in the media, and that's it. The issue fizzles out. You never hear about it again. So you have media trial, but hardly ever court trial. And even when you do have court trial, it hardly ever ends in a conviction of the perpetrators or the alleged perpetrators, as the case may be. Is that part of the problem?
It's a very big problem, because when you have cases like this, there must be speedy and diligent prosecution. There must be speedy and diligent investigations. But when investigations, you know, are not very diligent, you cannot prosecute. And then when the prosecution becomes very long, people get tired. The parents may just give up and say, you know what? I'm no longer interested in this case. Let's forget about
because it costs money to prolong a case in court.
There will be so many factors at play. The religious leaders may come and say, forget about it. I mean, this is the way God wants it. God obviously does not want anyone to be killed.
Absolutely.
And then the family will say, you know what, let's protect our family name. You know what, this is getting too long. It's affecting us and all of that. Let us move on. So we need to we have got to a stage where when we have cases like this, the courts must say, look, you know what, in 1 week, this case must be done and dusted. We're not going to wait for 6 months, 1 year, adjourning, re-adjourning, and all of that. So we must have special judges for cases like this and special courts to try this matter speedily. And the investigators must be very diligent in their investigations.
Interesting. Thank you for that interesting insight. But Haja Bilkisu, another dimension again, particularly with this Hanifa case, you know, that the kidnapper took her to his own home. You know, the setting of our society. You can hardly have a 5-year-old strange one in your house without many people knowing. Certainly his wife knew, you know, and she didn't ask any questions. So what does that say about even the women because not just the fact that the mother, I mean, his own wife was involved, but one of the women that allegedly lured him or even sold the idea, one of the people who sold the idea to him in the first place was also a woman. So what role do you think women can play, not just as parents, but also as, you know, supporters or even perpetrators of this kind of crimes? Where are women situated? Women
own a very big role. Women are the bedrock of the family.
Okay.
If you know you're a mother, as a mother, everybody was distraught yesterday when the news broke out. The whole country, we all wept. So as women, as mothers, be your sister's keeper. We need to know that we need to stand up and take responsibility for our actions. We can't just sit down and allow things to go on the way they are. What do we stand for? As women, we need to take action, protect ourselves, because nobody will do that for us. And when we do that, when we know our worth, we know our sister's worth, that's when we're able to grow our children, the men, to understand the worth of the woman. We need to step up to take responsibility, to own our worth, not sit and play in victimhood, not sit under the men. Of course, we respect the men. They are our fathers, they are our husbands. But what do you stand for as a woman? What are you worth as a woman? It is only when the woman knows her worth and is able to understand herself and her family that she can contribute to the society and raise good children, compassionate, responsible children in the society.
Thank you. So, Dame Jolie, one of the dimensions people are looking at is the previous cases or the many cases of kidnapping. Kidnapping is about the most popular crime in Nigeria right now, unfortunately so. But the people who do the kidnapping mainly are people who are in the bushes, you know, who are, you know, or we lay people on the roads and so on and so forth. But these ones are people who live among us, who we can call neighbors or teachers, and who in this case cannot even lay claim to poverty because the man runs a school, for goodness sake, you know, and and so on. Well, is there something missing that we don't understand yet?
Yes.
Which we need to get to the solution?
Yes. The truth is that whether we like to believe it or not, there are a lot of pedophiles around us. We as parents have not really done our job, our due diligence to find out who we're leaving our children with, the teachers, the principals, and all of that, you know. And so we leave these children at the mercy of these teachers without really knowing who they really are. As far as I'm concerned, when you have things like this happening, we have to look beyond the surface. We are just looking at it like the girl was kidnapped. No, the guy probably raped her.
Okay.
He probably kept her in that house for days, raping her, and he probably raped her to death. So coming up with a story of poisoning her does not add up for me. Secondly,
so
now
we need to know more about the
yes,
case.
we need to carry out an autopsy report to find out is this girl. I believe she was raped to death. Secondly, now I'm taking another dimension. If we look at the women who lured this girl, we do not know in what circumstances they lured these girls. They are probably under fear and threats of the man themselves, of that man. So I do not think that the women deliberately or intentionally lured this girl. That man must have some form of control over them and has put fear in their lives. I tell you, there was a case of a man who was raping his children. His own children. And the wife was aware of it, but she could not speak out because he had threatened to kill her and to kill all the children. So sometimes we need to find out, we need to get these women out and find out the circumstances that led to their involvement and if it has happened before, because I believe it has been happening. Yes. The man must be a pedophile and has been preying on little girls, and this one was too much for him and caught up with him. So we need to investigate this to the fullest.
Interesting. Thank you. As a psychotherapist, you know, this man on his social media, on his Facebook profile, which is so earlier on social media, he claimed to be caring, compassionate. You know, the most positive terms you can use to describe a person. And I don't know, faces don't show how violent people can be, but there's hardly anything violent about his face. Is it that people change at some point in their lives and then pick up these things, or what's happening?
It might not have been that he changed.
Okay.
Because if he wasn't caring, Hanifa wouldn't have followed him. When he went, he sent some people to pick her, from what I read. He sent some people to pick her.
And she refused.
She refused to follow them. But because of the familiarity between them, that was why she followed him. And because of that familiarity, she was able to stay in his house for 2 weeks. She's 5 years. So if she could stay in his house for that long, that means there's that caring between them. And sometimes even the worst of people know how to put in facade. So we really don't know. That is why we need to train the teachers we leave our children with. We need to make mental health a priority. Most people are affected. You'll just see somebody walking, you don't know what is wrong with him. The person will look all okay, but there is more to that. So bringing that awareness about our mental health is very important. And most importantly, we don't take it important. We think it's some joke. It is now that the awareness is increasing. Like in Arewa, some people will tell you it's just Turanchi. It's English.
The mental health issue.
Yes. What is mental health? Don't bring that Turanchi. But it is real and it is affecting people. And if before people don't do certain things, now the world is a global place.
Yes.
Information is at everybody's fingertips. So a lot of things are going into the subconscious mind of people. Sometimes it is not even intentional. We use only 5% of our conscious mind. So when you're not aware of something, you can even watch something and it will go into your subconscious mind and you won't even know when you will begin to act in that way. That is why we need to empower the people's mind, create awareness about how the mind works. And at the same time, we should be compassionate to our people, our children, with the kind of information that goes into people. We receive information at very fast rate. Sometimes we don't even know what goes into our head, and we can act subconsciously.
Thank you. So, is there a lacuna in the laws of the land? For example, you have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, you know, which I understand focuses mainly on cases of rape and so on. Does it cover for cases or incidents such as the ones we're witnessing now?
Absolutely.
Hanifa and other ones.
I do not believe there's a lacuna. The law has taken care of every kind of situation, especially the VAP Act. But the truth is that the implementation is a problem. You know, and you see a lot of people getting away with this because you parade somebody, oh, he raped this person to death, and that's just about it. We don't hear of it anymore. And sometimes it takes long, years upon years. At the end of the day, nothing happens.
So it's about the implementation of the law rather than the law itself.
No, yeah, the laws are there. We have the laws. We have the criminal code. We have the penal code. We have the VAP Act. The laws are there. But the problem is implementation. We must be very serious about implementing these laws. We must begin to take it very seriously. And then the time frame is just something else. We must change the narratives.
Thank you. So I just understand that, thank you viewers for staying with us. We just received messaging that our third guest is now available, Dr. Fatima Damagun from Kano. Dr. Fatima, can you hear us?
Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Hello? Can you hear me? Good evening.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
So we were just discussing about, you know, not just the legal, but also the moral aspect of this case. We are saying that we're trying to understand what makes someone who describes themselves on social media as caring and compassionate, what makes them to, you know, go into this kind of action so suddenly. So is this something he could have been doing before, or what's really happening? Why are these cases rising in this part of the world?
Okay. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Just
Can
go
you
ahead.
hear me? So these cases are on the increase, but the truth is kidnapping has been on the increase. But I've followed your discussion, and other things like mental health and pedophiles that were mentioned have always been with us. You know, it's not it's just not being talked about the way it is being discussed now. And I've heard your discussion, and I see that I hear that people are talking about, you know, parents doing their due diligence and all that. But, you know, there is a limit to the diligence that parents can do when you take your child to a school. This is a trust you're signing. I mean, the way you are making it sound is almost like you're pushing the blame back on the parents. Before you put your child in a school, I am sure that you must have done your background and you must have done your homework and checked that it's a good school. And to be fair to them, we have never heard of anything happen in that school before. So when you take your child to the school, you cannot go and check the background of all the teachers. That's not possible. And then even the employers of labors themselves, the owner of the schools, they will do there's only a certain limit into which you can go into the background of people. So the truth is, you can never really know these things, especially in this case. When I read about it, I first heard about it when she was kidnapped, and then later when the story broke that she was killed, you know, we were devastated. But the only reason she was killed, and it wasn't just a kidnap ransom case, was because she recognized him, and he realized he had no other option. He couldn't keep the girl forever, so, and he couldn't risk being caught. So that is what has led to all this brutality. So in addressing this, I refuse to believe that there is a mental, even as I'm a doctor, that there's a mental health cause for pain. There is nothing like that. I think people are just being greedy. These are people that work for you. You know, they've seen girl, they've identified something from her parents, and he just felt that it was an opportunity to make a quick buck, and so he, you know, resorted to the means of which has become popular nowadays. Everybody's hearing of fast money and hearing of kidnapping. Here, this one did it and got away with it. This one did it and got away with it. Why not me? So I don't want to believe that. I just believe we're just the youth nowadays. Everybody's just this get rich quick and thing that is going on, and people just being greedy. I believe so.
Thank you. So, Dame Julie, sorry, our viewers, for that technical hitches that we're having. We're unable to connect with Dr. Fatima at the same time. We need to be able to hear her, and she hear also that I can interject when she's speaking, you know, so that she will give us a minute to bring in other guests. But we're having issues with that, but I'm sure in the next few minutes that will be sorted out. Yeah. So as we were speaking, as she was saying that she doesn't believe it's a mental health issue, doesn't believe that there is some measure of deliberation involved. You know, the fact that he recognized that the girl now recognizes him, you know, that's why he now felt that the only way to should we always expect that the victim is going to die if the victim is in a way associated with the perpetrator of the crime?
Well, it's very strange that the man has turned around to say she was killed because she recognized him. Because in the first place, she went with him because she recognized him.
Interesting.
So I don't know why people even believe what he said.
Thank you.
She did not go, she was not killed because she recognized him. As far as I'm concerned, it went beyond that. This girl stayed in this man's house for 2 weeks. I believe he raped her to death. And he cannot turn around to say the only reason why he killed her was because in the first place she went with him because she recognized him.
Interesting.
So yeah, so yes, of course, in cases where children or anyone is kidnapped and eventually recognizes the perpetrators, yes, the possibility that they will leave no witnesses and kill them is very high. But in this case, ab initio, the girl recognized him, and that was why she went with him. So obviously, he knew he was going to kill this girl because there was no way he would have let her go. So I don't believe it was deliberate. He first sent a crew, they didn't succeed, and then he was so greedy and desperate to do whatever he planned to do with this beautiful girl, and he went after her himself. So there's no excuse.
There's no excuse. You have been nodding, so I'm sure you have a response to that. Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it was deliberate on the killing.
Okay.
The kidnapping was deliberate, definitely, and she recognized him. That was why she went with him. And she was in his house for 2 weeks. So the story he's given is crap, really. For the killing, I think he got scared.
Okay.
And when he got scared, he wasn't thinking straight. That is why
that brings in mental issues, or
yes,
or just spur of the moment kind of thing.
Spur of the moment.
Okay.
If he was intentional at that time, he would have realized releasing her to go is better for him than killing her, unless if he had another agenda, which you is saying it could be
rape or
the organ harvest. We never know. Yes, they have to investigate more on that. He got scared and killed her. It might not be he had the intention to kill her. He just wanted to make fast money, which is everybody doing that in Arewa. Kidnapping is everywhere now. A neighbor will kidnap for 200,000. Another, it's just
even
ridiculous.
20,000 they do it.
Exactly, to make quick money. And if the government do not begin to take action about it, killing people instantly, as she said, within a week execution, it will continue like that. Because people are, anyway, let me just not say that.
So that's all right. That brings us to just about the middle of the program. We've looked at the issue. So maybe in the next phase of the program, we'll be looking at the solutions to it. Thank you very much for staying with us as we dedicate this program to Hanifa Abubakar, who was killed or who was abducted and eventually killed by her own teacher in Kano. If you stay with us over the next 1 minute, we'll be right back and continue. Thank you. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're talking about the kidnappings and killings of minors in particular, separate from the rampant kidnapping and banditry that has been going on in large swaths of the country in recent years. Thank you for staying with us as we continue. So, one of the issues is the governance structure of this. What we can do, is one thing to lament the problem, is another thing to do something about it as a society. But doing something about it entails doing something about it at different levels of governance. At the level of maybe the federal government, such as enacting the violence against persons laws that we have. But what about lower levels of governance, like the Kano state government, or the school authorities, or the the education authorities who supervise private schools, and so on and so forth. What can we do at these levels?
Absolutely. I mean, the fight against sexual and gender-based violence is a fight that must and should involve the whole of government at all levels and the whole of society. Everyone has a role to play. Okay. You can't leave it just for the federal government. The state government has a lot to play. For instance, in this case, the state government should get up and say, you know what? We must get to the bottom of this as soon as possible. The community leaders have a role to play. The women leaders have a role to play. The faith-based organizations have a role to play. So everyone, even the media, has a role to play, which is what you're doing right now. So everyone must play their role to ensure that, look, these laws are implemented and that these guys do not get away with impunity. There's so much impunity. A lot of people just do what they like and they get away with impunity. Everyone must come together and say, enough is enough. This must stop.
Thank you. Maybe I would take Dr. Fatima on Verzum. Dr. Fatima, if you can hear me. Okay, we're talking about what we can do at different levels of governance to solve these problems. As a doctor, do you think the medical system have any role to play in this?
Yes, they do. They do. We do, actually. Gender-based violence is something that is taught in medical school, is part of the curriculum. It is something that has been spoken about over and over again. It is something that every doctor is being taught how to assess, and I'm sure almost every practitioner all over the world has met one form of rape case or the other in their practice. So it's something that we keep saying. We are taught how to assess, how to talk to the victims, how to get a proper history, who to alert, how to, and then we have something called the rape kits. There are NGOs involved, how to take proper swabs, who to report to, and so on. Gender-based violence goes beyond rape. We see cases of domestic violence all the time. So it's something that we see daily in our practice. And what we do usually is when you see these cases, you report. And sometimes, like I heard her saying, Mrs. Donley, I think the thing that the problem is the implementation.
Is it just,
we see the cases, we report the cases, and then we never hear of it again. So it gets to a time when you become desensitized and you feel to why are you reporting? Who do you report?
A female, she's also a 5-year-old. And there have been cases where it's not just females that are involved in this kind of thing. For example, the Kaduna case we mentioned earlier, even an earlier case in Kano did not involve females, but children as a cohort. So what's needed here? Is it just gender-based violence or violence against children specifically?
Of course, we have both, and both are bedeviling the society.
Okay.
But today we're talking about the minors. So we need to pay attention to the violence against minors. We need to put checks in places, like in the schools. How do they leave the school to go back home? Who is the caretaker? Some other day I was talking with a friend. There's an Islamic school our children go to. There's nobody attends to the children. You'll just go and pick them up and go with them. So we were talking about the security issues. Of course, here in Abuja, most schools, you can't just go and pick a child like that. So parents, school owners, community need to come together to support each other. Even as parents, if we can't go and pick up our children.
So are there experiences that can be shared, experiences that are safe, or that have been proved to be safe across the country? Like you're saying now that in Abuja, people cannot just walk into a school.
You have to have an ID card.
Okay, you have to have an ID card.
ID card, yes.
So are there these experiences that can be shared across the country? Because sometimes it's learning methods that work in other places, then that can be replicated in places where we have challenges.
Exactly. Like in the schools, schools should be sure to release children to people they know. And parents in a community that have their children going together, they can organize a group. Maybe if today this mother is accompanying, tomorrow another will pick up the children. Have like a community support. Because most of the Arewa people, their children walk to school and come back by themselves. Even the very young ones. I know the society,
so you're suggesting people should have adults to accompany their children
let's
to
take
and from
responsibility
school.
because the life has changed now. We need to change with the changing times. It's very hard. We're trying, and everybody is doing the best they can in the best way possible they know how to. But we need to step up, take more responsibility on our children.
Thank you. In one of the stories that happened in Kano, our newspaper Daily Trust reported and spoke to an Islamia teacher who said that sometimes parents come and leave their children with them and even forgot that they had left the children at Islamia. Sometimes they have to now start looking for the parents' homes to take these kids back, even well after closing times. Is it possible for a parent to forget that they had taken their child to school and to retrieve them?
That must be very irresponsible parents. I know for a fact that some parents leave their children at school for long hours after they've closed. So those kind of children are left at the mercy of the security men or even some teachers or principal who can do anything. We had a case like that some time ago in Abuja. I don't know if you remember, of this little girl who the mother was always living with the principal, and then he was raping the girl every day. You know, so we have parents who are just so careless, who just drop their children off. Like she said, we must always have adults, female supervision to ensure that these children have a kind of adult female supervision with them. And we keep on talking about little girls that are raped. A lot of little boys are also raped. So we must pay attention to the boys just as much as we pay attention to the girls, because children are being raped every day.
Interesting. Thank you. So, but what about the specifics of an Islamia school system? Because too often they don't have the kind of resources that the conventional private schools have. They don't have resources to hire security men. Too often, not all Islamia schools also have school buses, you know, and things like that. Are there other changes that we need to make at that level? Because the case of Hanifa, particularly, she was picked up not from her regular private school where the teacher is, but from her Islamia school, you know.
So that is why I said the community. Most of the Islamias the children go to are within the community. So we can begin to take responsibility at the community level to support each other. Okay, if this group of children, my neighbor and the other group, we can say, okay, assign somebody to go with them. The teachers at the Islamia should also take responsibility to watch out for who is going with the children at close of time. We can find ways to improve on all that with community support.
Thank you. So maybe we will take one more question for Dr. Fatima Damagun. Can you hear us? Hello, Dr. Fatima, can you hear us? Okay, too. That's all right. Apologies for that. She cannot hear us. But maybe we will just rest the Zoom for tonight and maybe work towards making it better next time when we have someone on Zoom. So, Dim, we're back to you again. When all of this is said and done, it's still a comment on our society, the changes that our society or that have been brought about in our society of late. In the 80s, you know, or in the 70s, maybe these things were happening, we didn't know, or they were happening less, or is it that social media is making us aware of them now, or is it that there has been a sea change, you know, in various aspects of our society, or what's really happening?
There is nothing new under the sun. All of this has always happened from time immemorial. But people are becoming more aware and people speak about it. Back in the days, if a girl was raped, you hardly hear about it because the parents would never want anyone to hear about it. But now, you have girls who are raped who come out themselves.
But it didn't mean that there were no rapes even then.
Of course, there's always been rapes. We've always had incest. I remember far back as when I was very young, a friend of mine, her father, was raping all the sisters. But nobody talked about it. Everyone was quiet about it. So these things have been happening, but people were silent. But now we're beginning to break the culture of silence. People are becoming more aware, more educated, and more bold. And that's why even the rape victims themselves now can come out to say, I was raped, unlike back in the days. So that's exactly what is happening. There's more awareness, and there's still a lot more to be done. We need to continue to raise awareness, to sensitize people. A lot of parents are very shy. They do not talk about sex with their children. They must talk about sex education. Nobody has a right to touch you here. Nobody has a right to touch you there. If anyone tries to touch you, scream and things like that. If anyone comes to say, I sent them to pick you up, do not believe them. Don't go with them. So these are the things that you need to begin to teach children from when they are growing up. You don't take it for granted. We must teach children about it. We must talk to them about it. If you do not talk to these children about it, someone else will do it to them. So we have to prevent that from happening.
Interesting. Thank you. So, but the social media has turn out to be an interesting, particularly Twitter. One needs to read, to follow all the tweets that have been, churned out on this issue. Are we seeing the good that social media can do at last, or is it that we have not always recognized that? Because Twitter was just recently unbanned, so, and it's here we are, more than 20,000 tweets. All the entire country, all Nigerians from all walks of life, from all cultural backgrounds, are speaking on this issue as if they themselves feel the pain that the parents of Hanifa feel. So, what can they do?
Yes, social media is doing a very good role in that regards. What we need to do is ways to take action.
Okay.
Every day these things happen and we keep saying justice for, justice for. It just goes on the hype.
It goes beyond hashtags.
Okay. When the hype is down, we forget. They don't get convicted, nothing happens, and tomorrow another case comes up.
So what can we do to ensure that action is taken on this case? To say that, okay, this is the turning point. And after this, never again will we hear silence after such cases. What can we do? As our final question.
We have women groups, we have FIDA, we have NBA, we have NGOs. We need to sit down together. We need to come together this time around. It's not a one-man show. We need to come together on a round table, identify cases like this that have died, cases like this that have been swept under the carpet, cases like this that are being delayed in various courts, and say enough is enough. We want action. We must engage the National Assembly and tell them, look, this is getting too much. We must engage the courts, the chief judge, and tell them, look, we cannot continue like this. Something has to happen. We have to take the bull by the horn. We have to be very drastic. We have to be very deliberate, and we have to be very, very serious on these issues, because we cannot continue to do things the same way and expect different or better results. So this time I'm calling on fellow NGOs like me, NBA, FIDA, to come together to discuss all of this, to table all of these issues and make sure that we get justice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Haja, last comment, what can we do in terms of action rather than just words?
That is action, persecution, public execution. I think it should, yes. Until people see that people are punished for their crimes, everybody will do it, because it's social media. So many people are reading about it, and especially about this kidnapping. It has become a very easy way to get money for people. So until we start taking action, executing them publicly, things will continue like this, and we'll just keep talking and talking and talking.
Thank you very much. This is where we draw the curtain on tonight's program. I would like to thank both of my guests, and of course the third guest out there. Thank you very much, Donley, for being here with us. Thank you very much, Haji Bilkisu, also for coming on the show. And we hope to have you too on the show some other time. Thank you also, Dr. Fatima Damagum, for joining us via Zoom. And we apologize for the technical hitches. We hope that next time when you join us again, those problems will not resurface. Thank you. Thank you especially for the guests, for our viewers who stayed with us through this program as we dedicated today's episode of Daily Politics to Hanifa Abubakar, whom we feel deserves it. May her gentle soul rest in peace. Amen. Thank you and good night. I am Suleiman Suleiman.